This is Friday's live meditation webinar with Kokoro Collective. Just setting up now. Please do jump on board when you're ready, and we'll get started in the next couple of minutes. Hi folks, welcome on board. Good to see you. Well, let's press ahead. This is the second webinar that we've set up, meditation webinar. They're going to be very frequent, really. We're planning probably sort of at least 2 a month, I would think. If you were here last week, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the basic initial experiences that we access with some of the basic meditation techniques, relaxation practice, closing the eyes, moving into these trance-like states as they're called, letting the mind move into that slightly sleep-like state when it starts to heal itself more rapidly. We can look at the practices again and review them somewhat today. I thought I'd begin by talking for a couple of minutes as well about the nature of meditation or reflexive practice, contemplative practice, and why it's so beneficial. Well, the mind is composed of many layers, basically. We have lots of attitudes. We recognize that we have a range of emotional tendencies that we often experience in cycle with each other. We can have lots of different thoughts, trains of thoughts, different personality traits. All of our memories are stored within us. So it's almost a limitless system. It's a vast storehouse, really, the mind, the subconscious mind, of all of our attitudes, feelings we've developed, outlook on life, these kinds of factors. And in combination, they make up our personality. The personality matters a lot because obviously it's the organism or the entity which is relating to the rest of life and making decisions about how to behave. A lot of our decisions are made at a mental level, and we choose how we relate to existence and how we choose to behave, beginning intellectually. So the healthier the intellect is, or the healthier the mind is, the better our chances of functioning well and also being happy fundamentally and being healthy are. And mental health is very important as well because of the effect on physical health. The activity of the mind is really part of the environmental activity which the body responds to. The body reacts to what happens around it physically by generating feelings. And this is true for physical events which happen past the skin, but it's also true for mental activity. If one trains in meditation enough, we start to experience the fact that the body reacts not only very rapidly, but literally moment by moment, all of which are basically real events. Thought is much subtler than physical activity, but it's a real process nonetheless, and so it does affect the body. And it's quite interesting to enter trance, so we achieve that kind of heightened awareness state, and then start to notice what's happening in this interaction between the two, the mind at the mental level or the head level, as it goes about its affairs and generates ideas, etc. And then how the gut, the torso, the physical organs and the body react with emotion continuously. And it's a fascinating process, and it helps us understand that we really do script our personalities and we set up who we are and determine really how our personalities are and affect the health of the body a lot. all the time. So these are some of the reasons to take an interest in consciousness, basically, and work on refining it, developing it with these kinds of techniques. So for a first healing practice today, I thought we'd sit for 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to do some work with the eyes closed later, so keep the eyes open if you want to now, and if you want to explore the contrast between how your mind is when the eyes remain open and we remain largely awake, and in comparison to what happens when we close the eyes and we move into trance. It's up to you, eyes open or closed. Please take a comfortable position, sit as you are, you're welcome to lie down. But what we want to do is just experience ourselves, basically. That's the simplest way of putting it. Let the activity of the mind take place. And let any emotions that you notice take place as well, anything that's happening inside the body in terms of feelings. And let physical sensations or bodily symptoms of any type also occur. These are the 3 sort of main elements of our being that we spoke about last week somewhat: thought, mental activity, emotions, and physical sensations. So we just want to allow them all to occur. Hope it's not too clumsy a metaphor, but as if they're spinning plates, as if there's several things happening at once, or snowball is rolling down a hill, anything like that, and just let let yourself be and exist and experience yourself. And let's see if there's any change in any of these levels of us or layers of us. Is the mind changing as we do this? Is the body changing at all? The way that we're sitting, emotional state changing. There's a process underway, and it's a very interesting one to study. It's somewhat subtle, which is why we normally take time just quietly to practice like this. But we are changing immediately. There's no way to stay the same, actually. So let's experience that change that we're undergoing for a little while longer. So Another metaphor that's used for this process is it's like a flower opening. Basically, there's a bud which is closed, and we don't know what's inside it. We can't see what's inside, and there's layers of content, but we haven't witnessed them yet. And then certain elements of it start to open and be revealed more, and the external layers start to open up. And so there's a process, there's a developmental process, but of course all that leads to is us realizing that there's still a bud on the inside, and there's still more content within us. So it's quite like that spatially, three-dimensionally with the body. It's stored all of our patterns and all of our tendencies, and when we take time to just experience them, there'll be a stack of them, which are in a certain order, and we'll only ever experience the surface level, basically. You may have noticed that there was a subtle shift over those couple of minutes. A little while longer for practice is good, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. And you'll find that not only do we change, but there's generally there's a process, and there's generally a positive change. Going back to this train of thought from last week, the self-healing intelligence that the body has is very much a feature of the mind as well. The body really does want to be well, and it repairs itself as best it can, and so does the mind. The mind is basically a self-healing phenomenon in my observation. It really does do everything it can to try and be well, so we just need to give it space to do so. And then we go through this process, which is infinite, of experiencing who we are at a surface level, who we've become, how we are, and then that will gradually dissolve and change. And several, there are benefits to that. Of course, it frees the mind up. We don't dedicate awareness too much to unnecessary trains of thought or unnecessary emotions that have been stored inside us, which is good. And then actually what happens is that the energy which has been dedicated to preserving them is freed, because it's not needed to hold the mind in that state anymore. So that is reabsorbed by the organism, and you'll find that every time a layer dissolves, if you work on experiencing this process, there's a slight energization where you feel slightly more awake and slightly energized by what's happened. It's because it's like you've been trying to hold lots of objects all at once and keep them where they are, and if you let go of them, you don't have to use your energy in that way. So then that's reabsorbed, consolidated within, and it becomes yours, and you'll be healthier for it. So simple, but quite many layers to it. Basically, the higher our sensitivity gets, the more we can appreciate about how that happens. It's a very significant healing practice. And let's go into trance for a few minutes as well. I mean, we've experienced that kind of process in the waking state. If you want to, please close the eyes. Please bear in mind, as said last week, that there needs to be a basic disclaimer attached to this work that we're moving into an altered state of consciousness. It's impossible for me to know what's in everyone's subconscious mind. So I have to ask that everyone who participates takes full responsibility for the outcomes of these kinds of practices, effects on mental health or physical health. I'm sure we can proceed very safely and this will be beneficial, but it's a sort of, it's got to be an individual responsibility. But if you want to move into this trance-like state again, just close the eyes and let the mind relax for a couple of minutes. It's exactly the same process. We just allow the mind and allow the emotions and allow the body to exist and express themselves. It's quite a passive state, really. We're experiencing ourselves, not necessarily doing anything, just existing. And yet noticing that things still are happening. Things are being done even if we're not trying to do very much. Not much is at work. There's a lot happening inside us. Hopefully, as the minutes pass and we relax more, our experiences of that bodily intelligence and of that mental intelligence activating, starting to express themselves. If there's anything like a natural, spontaneous, just totally, self-realized positivity or happiness or feeling of improved health in any way, which starts to be palpable, that's a great sign. It means that we're getting into the right kind of state where we're just relaxed and we're achieving a very different state from the busy, eyes open, interfacing with physical reality state that we're often in. This is our rest time, basically. And it's where a lot of healing happens. Again, because we reserve our energy and we just use it like this, all of that energy we'd use to interact with the environment is actually conserved within. We said we'd speak about the breath, and we'd pay attention to the breath today. We can settle our awareness into any process inside us or any part of the body or mind. And with that being the theme today, let's pay attention to our breathing. Just focus with the mind and just notice how the breathing feels, how it sounds, etc. Obviously, every bodily system is affected by our mood, including the breath, absolutely. So it's quite an interesting way of reading what kind of state you're in, noticing what's been on one's mind, what kind of emotions have been predominant. Just paying attention to the breath, its pace, its depth, etc. It all reveal information about how we are. But we can't really focus anywhere without starting to have a beneficial effect on it, actually, because of this inherent instinct for self-healing and this healing intelligence of the mind. If you concentrate somewhere, you actually concentrate your awareness there, and it benefits the area. And it's almost like we express that sort of self-healing intelligence towards the area in question. So if we're tuning into the breath, we're going to be feeling inside the spine to quite a significant extent, and the chest area. So you may have found that over the last couple of minutes the rhythm of the breath has changed slightly as well. And that's like a physical parallel to the experience we had earlier of the mind changing. When we sort of pay attention to it and we experience it, it starts to settle and calm and organize itself. So too with the breathing or any physical process. And we can do a lot for physical health and emotional health with breathing and deeper breathing, developing the breath rhythm. That's because two very important emotional centers in the body are in the torso. One is basically in the center of the chest, at the level of the thoracic spine, as it's called. So, middle of the chest where the breastbone is, and then below that as well at the solar plexus. Our emotional health plays out in those areas very strongly, but of course those are the areas we stimulate when we breathe. So there's an interesting overlap between physical movement and emotional health, and we can improve both at the same time with these kinds of practices. Basically, if we work on our breathing, as we will for the next few minutes, particularly if we make it slightly deeper, we start to massage the body from within, basically, stimulating all of the joints, muscles, structures in the chest, and also at the gut level. So let's be aware of our state at the moment, whatever we're experiencing. And then let's take control of that breathing rhythm a bit more consciously. So please think, I breathe more deeply. Just try entertaining the thought for a minute. That may have stimulated the breathing a bit, and if it hasn't, whether it has or not, let's just start using the muscles in the torso more actively, and take a few breaths of any depth, whatever's comfortable, but try deepening the breath slightly. And just keep that practice up. We want to do at least 20 to 30 very deep breaths if it's comfortable to. And perhaps that's led to another change within. So we sat at the beginning and we allowed thoughts to surface and content to take place, and hopefully we experienced, even just to an initial extent, a dissolving of what was on the mind, and a sort of relaxation and a calming of the emotions, and that's a very beneficial development. It's achieved by mental means. Essentially, we just sit and experience ourselves, and then we the sort of reflection that we have a chance to engage in lets us start to analyze the mind, release its contents, etc. So that's beneficial. And then there's also this physical level, exercise, literal inner exercise, to develop the breath rhythm, all the muscles which operate the rib cage when we breathe, etc. And that will that should have a beneficial effect on emotional health and the mind, because of the obvious interconnection between it and the body. The healthier the body becomes, the better the mind is, and vice versa. So this deep diaphragmatic breathing with the rib cage, the breastbone and the spine opening, decompressing cyclically, and then also that rhythm moving down one level to the abdomen, and with that also starting to be massaged and open up, so that the whole area from literally the base of the neck down all the way down the back, and the front of the neck right down the front of the body are developed. The body really appreciates that as a practice. If you take an interest in deep breathing, and even if you only do sort of 30 to 50 repetitions of it a day, you will find there's quite an energization of the body, that the emotions move more because there's physical movement happening skeletally and muscularly. So the emotions must be affected as well. And those are the two main practices for today. The benefits are really in training with this kind of work. It's great to get together and do individual webinars. I hope we can do several moving forwards. I'm sure we will. But a daily practice is irreplaceable, really. I mean, if you can try to make 15 to 30 minutes a day, some reflection, contemplative practice, just sitting somewhere quiet. As the weather improves, being outside, if possible, is ideal. Experience the mind, allow it to start healing itself in that way, just by sitting and being aware of what you're experiencing. Try closing the eyes. Experiment with and explore trance states, because they are distinct. The mind softens and heals more rapidly in them generally. So that's a very powerful practice. And also then these deep breathing techniques, which are physical level, physical healings, but also emotional, designed to benefit the mind and the emotions as well. Thank you very much for being here today. I'm going to put my website in the comments. Interested in this kind of work. I'm also going to archive all of these broadcasts we made. So we'll have a list of them all together, and it would be great to train again. I'm sure every 1 to 2 weeks we'll look at hosting webinars like this, and we can look at a range of different subjects, different types of self-healing practices. I'm very up for taking requests, answering questions about the work as well. If anyone wants to make a theme out of certain aspects of what they're experiencing, focusing on certain areas in life in any way, mental health, physical health, relationships, etc. We can look at all of it. So thanks for being here today, folks. See you soon. Do give a share to this video if you found it helpful. It'd be great to spread the word. That's all for today. Cheers.